The war was almost over. Across the Outer Rim, separatist worlds were falling, and the Republic could taste victory. Captain Rex should have felt relief. Instead, he felt something was wrong inside the Grand Army. It started with Fives. His final warning never left Rex's mind. A chip in every clone. A hidden command. A plot buried beneath loyalty. The Kaminoans hid it. The Jedi moved on. Rex never forgot the fear in Fives' eyes. After a brutal campaign, Rex pushed for a deeper medical scan. He used his rank, his record, and his silence. What he found chilled him. The inhibitor chip was real. It was active. And its buried command was simple: kill the Jedi. Rex did not panic. He investigated quietly. He traced sealed records, medical files, and intelligence fragments from Kamino to Coruscant. Again and again, the trail ended near the Chancellor's office. That should have been impossible. Palpatine was the Republic's leader. He was trusted by the Senate, the people, and Anakin Skywalker. Then Rex heard something he was never meant to hear. While delivering a classified report on Coruscant, he passed through a restricted corridor beneath the executive district. Behind durasteel doors, he heard Palpatine speaking in a low, cold voice. Not like a politician, like a master giving orders. Darth Tyrannus was gone. Lord Vader would rise. The Jedi would soon be erased. Rex froze. In that instant, every warning from Fives snapped into place. The chips, the secrecy, the war itself. It had all been built for one moment. He backed away before the guards saw him, but Palpatine's final words hit like a blaster shot. "When the time comes, the clones will do their duty." Rex returned to the barracks with a storm inside him. If he was right, the man leading the Republic was the enemy behind the war. If he was wrong, accusing Palpatine meant treason. He had hours, maybe less, before the trap closed around the Jedi. And there was only one person in the galaxy he trusted enough to call. And if she believed him, the next move could decide the fate of everything now. Ahsoka Tano. The message reached Ahsoka on the edge of a ruined battlefield. She expected a routine update from an old friend. Instead, she heard Rex speak with a fear she had never heard before. He told her about the chip. He told her about Palpatine. He told her the Jedi were about to walk into a massacre. Ahsoka did not waste a second. She trusted Rex, and she remembered Fives. Too many pieces of that buried story had never made sense. Now they did. If Palpatine truly controlled the clones, then the Republic was already hanging over a pit. She redirected her shuttle toward Coruscant and ordered every route changed twice. Rex did the same on the ground, slipping past military checkpoints and feeding her coded updates. He had copied medical records, security logs, and a fragment of the Chancellor's own words. It was not enough to win a trial, but it was enough to start a war. The closer Ahsoka came to the capital, the tighter the net became. Senate Guard patrols increased. Clone transports moved at odd hours. Jedi signals began dropping one by one into silence. Someone inside the system was already preparing for the strike. When Ahsoka landed, she and Rex met in secret beneath the industrial levels of Coruscant. There was no reunion, no relief, only urgency. Rex laid the evidence before her and said the words neither of them wanted to hear. The Chancellor was the Sith Lord. Ahsoka felt the truth hit hard. Anakin had trusted Palpatine for years. The Council had tolerated him. The Senate had handed him more power with every crisis. Now, all of it pointed to one end. Together, they mapped the fastest path to the Jedi Temple. If they could reach the Council before Palpatine moved, there was still a chance to stop Order 66 before it began. But as they rose toward the upper city, red lights flashed across the night sky. Coruscant had already started to lock down. On every screen, emergency orders rolled across the city. Security Command had sealed the Temple District. Somewhere above them, Palpatine was smiling because he knew danger was nearing him. They found Anakin in the lower halls of the Jedi Temple, moving fast between council summons and war briefings. He looked tired, irritated, and pulled in 3 directions at once. The moment he saw Ahsoka with Rex, he knew this was not a normal visit. Rex spoke first. He gave only the core truth. The clones carried inhibitor chips. The chips held a hidden order to kill the Jedi. Palpatine was tied to the plot. Ahsoka backed him with the evidence they had carried through the city. For one long moment, Anakin said nothing. Then, he rejected it. He could believe corruption in the Senate. He could believe Kamino had hidden something from the Jedi. But Palpatine? The man had guided him, defended him, and stood by him when the Council treated him like a weapon instead of a person. To Anakin, this accusation sounded impossible. Worse, it sounded convenient. Ahsoka saw the conflict in his face and pressed harder. She reminded him of Fives, of the Chancellor's strange grip over military power, of how every emergency somehow gave Palpatine more control. Rex added what he had heard with his own ears. Darth Tyrannus was gone. Lord Vader would rise. The Jedi would be erased. That last part shook Anakin, not because he believed it, but because he felt something dark behind it, a shadow he had ignored for too long. Still, fear drove him the other way. If this was false, then exposing Palpatine would split the Republic in half and hand the war to its enemies. If it was true, then everything Anakin had trusted was rotten. Both paths felt like betrayal. He demanded time. Ahsoka refused. There was no time left. Their argument sharpened into anger. Rex stood between them like a soldier watching a bridge crack under fire. At last, Anakin made his choice. He would go to Palpatine himself and hear the truth from the Chancellor's mouth. Ahsoka tried to stop him. Rex warned it was exactly what Palpatine would want. Above him, dark thunder rolled over Coruscant. Anakin turned away anyway. And as he entered the Senate district alone, the trap closed around him. Anakin entered Palpatine's private office expecting answers. What he found instead was calm. The Chancellor stood beside the city lights with his hands folded, as if he had been waiting for this moment for years. There was no surprise in his face, only satisfaction. Palpatine did not deny anything. He spoke softly, almost kindly, and that made it worse. He told Anakin the Jedi were planning to seize power. He claimed the Council feared Anakin's strength and had sent spies against the lawful leader of the Republic. Then he stepped deeper into the truth. He admitted he had guided the war. He admitted he had controlled both sides, and he said it had all been necessary to bring order to a broken galaxy. Anakin stared at him in shock. The words felt unreal, but the darkness behind them did not. He could feel it now, alive and open. Palpatine was the Sith Lord. Rex had been right. Ahsoka had been right. Everything had been right, except the timing. Because Palpatine had already moved. Across Coruscant, coded signals burst through military channels. In barracks, gunships, and command posts, clone troopers froze as buried commands lit up inside their minds. Loyalty twisted into obedience. Brothers who had fought beside Jedi for years turned with blank purpose toward a single order: execute the Jedi. At the temple, shock became slaughter in seconds. In hangars, halls, and war rooms, clones opened fire before many Jedi even understood what was happening. Masters fell protecting younglings. Knights died calling for troops who no longer answered to them. Rex felt the command strike his own mind like a blade. For one terrible breath, his body wanted to obey. His hand moved toward his weapon. Then memory fought back. Fives. Ahsoka. The truth. He slammed himself against a wall, shaking, forcing his hand away from the trigger. Anakin ignited his lightsaber in Palpatine's office, but the Sith was already smiling. "You are too late," Palpatine said. The purge had begun, and almost no one was ready. Below them, the city burned with blaster fire. And inside the temple, Ahsoka heard marching boots closing from every corridor at once. Coruscant erupted into war before dawn. The heart of the Republic became a battlefield of sirens, smoke, and gunships. The Jedi Temple, once a symbol of peace, was now under siege from the very army built to defend it. Inside, Ahsoka moved through collapsing corridors with survivors at her side. Padawans, wounded knights, temple guards, all of them were being pushed back by waves of clone troopers who knew every entry point and every weak line in the defense. There was no clean front, no safe chamber, no time to breathe. Rex reached the temple through maintenance tunnels, fighting his own brothers one terrible step at a time. He used stun fire when he could, lethal shots when he had no choice, and every blast felt like a betrayal burned into his armor. He found Ahsoka in the Archives wing and gave her the only advantage they had left. The command was spreading through the network, but not every clone had fully turned yet. Confusion still existed. Seconds still mattered. At the same time, Master Yoda, Mace Windu, and Obi-Wan Kenobi converged on the crisis from different parts of the city. The Council had no more doubts. Palpatine was the Sith. The arrest they should have made in secret would now have to be made through fire. Gunships roared over the Senate district as Jedi strike teams cut a path toward the Chancellor's tower. Clones loyal to Palpatine sealed streets, opened turbo-laser nests, and turned the skyline into a cage. Citizens fled in panic, while senators vanished behind security shields. Then Anakin exploded out of Palpatine's office and into the storm. He had not joined the Sith, not yet, but he had not stopped Palpatine either. His duel with the Dark Lord shattered windows and blasted apart the tower's upper chambers, sending burning debris into the city below. Every witness on Coruscant now knew one thing. The Chancellor was no helpless politician. The city itself was turning against the Jedi. As Jedi forces closed in from every side, Palpatine raised his blade and unleashed a call through the Force like a scream. And across the capital, more clones answered. Order 66 hit Rex like a nightmare that refused to end. The command kept pounding through his mind, a cold pulse telling him to fire, obey, and erase everything he knew. Every second he resisted felt like tearing through iron with his bare hands. Ahsoka saw the fight inside him and made a choice no battlefield manual could have prepared her for. She did not strike him down. She trusted the man, still buried under the order. That trust gave Rex the final push he needed. He ripped off his helmet, dropped to one knee, and forced out the words. The chips. We have to expose the chips. Rex knew the truth would die in the temple if it stayed buried in whispers and blood. Palpatine controlled the army because the army had never known it was enslaved. If the clones could see what had been done to them, some of them might break free. Maybe, not all, but enough could change the war. With Ahsoka covering him, Rex fought his way into a communications hub beneath the temple. Blaster bolts tore the walls apart as clones advanced from both sides. Temple guards fell, buying seconds. A Padawan sealed a blast door and died holding it shut. Through smoke and sparks, Rex linked military medical files, Fives' sealed report, Kaminoan records, and combat footage into one transmission. Then he pushed it across every Open Republic channel, to the Senate, to clone commanders, to civilian news grids, to any screen in the Capitol. He told them the truth. The chips were real. The Chancellor had hidden them. The order to kill the Jedi was not justice. It was control. For a breath, the city paused. Some clones kept firing. Others froze. Some looked at their hands as if they no longer knew whose hands they were. Across Coruscant, cracks opened. Palpatine felt it immediately. Above them all. In the Senate Tower, his face twisted with fury as the lie began to break apart. He had planned for Jedi resistance. He had not planned for the clones to question him. And that was when he turned all of his power toward Anakin. Anakin had spent years standing between two worlds. The Jedi wanted his loyalty without his questions. Palpatine offered trust while feeding his anger. Now both sides were in flames, and the choice he had feared for so long was finally in front of him. As clone confidence broke across the city, the Sith Lord shifted tactics and turned his voice on Anakin. He promised an end to fear. He promised the power to save people from death. He promised a galaxy remade under one will. For a moment, Anakin saw the path. No more waiting. No more losing those he loved. No more being judged by masters who never understood him. It was a wound Palpatine had touched, and now he drove straight into it. But the city told a different story. Clones were killing brothers. Citizens were running from the man they had once cheered. Jedi and soldiers who had fought together were dying in burning streets. This was not peace through order. This was power through ruin. Then Ahsoka reached him. She cut through the tower battle with Rex and found Anakin in the shattered chambers above the Senate. She did not beg, she did not lecture. She looked him in the eye and told him a truth he could not escape. If you stand with him now, this ends with everyone else beneath your feet. The words landed harder than any blade. Palpatine attacked before the silence could hold. Lightning tore through the room, hammering stone, steel, and glass apart. Anakin and Ahsoka moved together on instinct, their sabers crossing against the storm while Rex dragged guards to cover and called surviving clones to stand down. For the first time in years, Anakin fought beside Ahsoka instead of against the doubt inside himself. It was enough to push Palpatine back, but not enough to defeat him. With a roar of rage, the Sith Lord blasted the tower apart and vanished into the chaos below, leaving Coruscant shaking and the future open. And as Anakin stared into the smoke, he knew the war was no longer about saving the Republic. It was about deciding what would replace it. By the time the first light touched Coruscant's towers, the Republic was no longer whole. The Senate was split. The Jedi were wounded, but alive. The clone army was fractured between blind obedience and painful awakening. And somewhere in that chaos, Palpatine was still free. His plan had depended on speed, fear, and silence. He had nearly won them, but Rex had broken the silence. Ahsoka had kept survivors alive. Anakin had refused to kneel. Now the Purge was no longer an execution. It was a civil collapse. Across the capital, clone units began turning on each other. Some commanders doubled down on the Chancellor's orders and hunted every Jedi signal they could find. Others locked down their own men, ripped out command relays, and demanded proof before firing another shot. Streets became front lines. Star destroyers held orbit without clear authority. The Republic's chain of command was snapping. Inside the ruined temple, Yoda and Obi-Wan gathered the survivors and made a hard choice. The old order could not simply return to what it had been. Its blindness had helped create this moment. If the Jedi were going to survive, they would have to become something far less certain of their own wisdom. Anakin heard those words and said nothing. He had not fallen, but he had come close to feel the edge beneath his feet. The war against Palpatine was a war for his own soul. Then the emergency signal arrived. Loyalist fleets had declared for the Chancellor. Separatist holdouts were rising again, sensing weakness. Entire sectors were choosing sides before the smoke on Coruscant had cleared. What should have been the end of the Clone War was becoming something larger and far more dangerous. Rex stood at a balcony and looked over the capital he had fought to protect. The truth was out. The Jedi lived. Palpatine was exposed. But the galaxy had already been pushed too far. And as distant warships began to move in the morning sky, one terrible question rose over every survivor left standing. If the Republic had fallen before the Empire could be born, what was this new war about to become?